So sometimes I sound stupid or like I don't understand things, but that goes for everybody. My father sounds like a complete moron at times, but I know his vocabulary and his knowledge was superb. He's just getting old in his age. I understand a lot of these things that are what they call idiofrequencies. I also have words to describe that I understand in my head or I understand complex things that other people are saying or doing, but I might not be able to repeat the words that I'm having go through my head as understanding. Like I might be thinking, that person looks like they have issues with their extremities, or I might be on the ground bleeding, or I might be after a seizure, and the doctor goes, "What's wrong?" And all I can say is seizure, shaking, heart. And then they go, "Oh, it's just an anxiety attack." But, well, they say, "Oh, it's just an anxiety attack." I'll say, "No, I know better. No, I know it's not." And the doctor will go, this kid's not a doctor. He doesn't know fucking shit. And then he'll write down anxiety. And then a year goes by, I have another seizure, bleeding on the side of the road. And I go to the hospital when this doctor writes anxiety. And I keep telling him, I know something that you don't. I'm trying to tell you, I know something. It's not anxiety. Now, how do I know that? How do I know that I know I have anxiety? I know I do. I've always, oh boy, do I. But having your limbs and your extremities for 25 years suddenly twitch, like for instance, having muscle spasms. I mean, no matter what, it's in your nervous system. Having flashing lights cause these twitches. If you take a light and you flash it, or when I am sitting in the emergency room and people walk by the door blocking the light, causing it to cast a shadow over me, and then it gets bright, the light shining in my face, then a shadow over me, then a light in my face, then shadow over me. This causes that same heart beating, electric signal through the spine and neck. Limbs start shaking and twitching by themselves. I can't hold on to my phone. My phone just slips out of my hand. When I try to move my leg, it bumps into a table. When I try to walk through a door, my arm spasms and my a wrist hits the doorknob and my watch breaks. That stuff is what I'm talking to the doctor about. But then he looks at my file and he sees he gets anxiety, he gets anxious, he's getting shaky and twitchy in bad situations. Oh, it's just an anxiety attack. We know he got that. He has every mental illness in the book. So we can write off everything with this epilepsy to some mental illness. He bumps in the furniture at age 15. Well, he's a self harmer. He's hurting himself on purpose. Oh, he jumps in a pool and catches the back of his foot because his coordination is screwed up. No, 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 he's self harming, the mother says. Okay, well, how about the twitching and the fact he doesn't drive? No, 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 he's just stupid. Well, how about the fact that he was getting a normal education, he was keeping up with other kids, he was doing better than half the class, and then all of a sudden he loses 4 years of education. He has no school going on in Texas. He has no school in Maine. He's getting reevaluated in Texas. He redid first grade because his mother's going nuts. He's on massive amounts of drugs that are causing him to be hungover in the morning. And then he's dropped in Chelmsford after 4 years, 6 years of all this crazy shit and said, here, try, let's see how you do with missing 4 years of your education, a bunch of reevaluations, and a bunch of drugs in your body where you can't even stay awake in the morning. And then we'll tell everybody you're just stupid. So now the doctors go, well, he must just be stupid. Well, how about all that other stuff before we moved to Chelmsford? Explain that to me, Doc. Explain to me why the teacher called me in the hallway many times looking into why my nervous system stopped working properly overnight and would not get better. They knew that something was wrong at home. I was only 7, so I didn't know what the teachers were getting at. But they said they would call home then, and The teachers put me in physical therapy and speech therapy right after. My mother started trying to force me into ballet. And I told the doctor about the overdose, how I woke up with my whole body numb and different. And again, okay, was there any more signs that there was something going on at home where my mother had Munchausen syndrome and I had a neurological disorder that was affecting my body, causing epileptic symptoms like muscle spasms, seizures, blackouts, staring at walls blankly, not being able to walk properly? Was anybody else seeing this? Oh, yes. My nephew saw me fuck up throwing tiles and throwing things. Oh, yes, my kids growing up knew I couldn't move my body properly. Oh, that's right. All the kids knew there was something wrong with my spine, and when they wanted to piss me off, they would just throw a ball at it, causing a big jolt to my body. I'd fall on the ground going, "Ugh!" Twitching. Yes, all the kids knew. If they threw something at my back, I would fall to the ground twitching in a funny way. And the kids would take advantage of this. So my mother knew, my father knew at age 7 that something was wrong. I begged them to listen to me. I begged them to listen to me. For 25 years, I'm still begging my father to please stop hurting me, stop damaging my body, and stop taking my doctors away. Stop trying to manipulate and confuse doctors, and he does it again. They just did it to Dr. Hodge. I convinced a neurologist to come all the way from Mass to New Hampshire, take a shitty insurance that they normally don't take, and see me once every 3 months or so. And he was an experienced doctor, years away from retirement, only like 5 years away from retirement. So he's older, he's experienced, he's seen every type of seizure in the book. He has an idea of what's going on with me, but we need to run more tests, and he needs to see more and hear from more from my family, more records, more old records, more new injuries, more from the patient me of what I know is going on, what happened in the past, what's happening in the future. He's listening. I'm on my second appointment. I got epilepsy medication. I've improved 80%. I'm about to show him my improvement, what he's going to see. But my father and his new side piece, who used to be a nurse, called this doctor. And I don't know what they said, but the next thing I know, after they got his number, after they are talking to some of these people, is that these people just don't, they call up and say, oh, I can't make it to New Hampshire anymore, but you had an appointment with me. Yeah. And then they say, oh, he's retiring. We knew that before he started. We knew he was a couple years, but what's really going on? Oh, that's right. My family got involved once again, just like what was happening when I applied for cash benefits and Social Security, and I started that process with Beth. Halfway through, she asked for my family's number so they could get old Social Security records. I gave them my father's number, and next thing I know, Beth is playing games, trying to avoid phone calls, and trying to pretend like I'm some fantasy spinner, trying to make up a fantasy. And what is my father's favorite thing to go with when he wants to get out of trouble? He's mentally ill. It's a fantasy. You're wasting your money on this, on my son. You're wasting taxpayer dollars. Don't do it. Oh, it's a fantasy. It's a red herring. Any of those. He loves them. He loves calling all his problems me. All I need to do is do what every other American does. Go to the doctors. But I can't, because not any American was born an orphan, had a Henry and a Patricia, try to cripple them and avoid responsibility, lie to doctors, and spend money to destroy your life. I'm not allowed to go forward with working without this doctors, and I'm not allowed to go to Social Security and get money without these doctors. I'm not allowed to use a shelter without these doctors, and I am allowed to drive without the doctors, but I shouldn't be because somebody will get hurt. So I'm not allowed to drive either unless somebody wants to die. So that's not, I don't want to be responsible for killing somebody else. I would be safer, but nobody else would be, because I know my legs and arms spasm. I have blackouts and seizures. Imagine me behind the wheel, and what happens to me while walking on the side of the road happens behind the wheel. Oh, fuck, we're all dead. Actually, I'll be safe because I got a seatbelt and everything. I'm more likely to die walking on the side of the road having these seizures. The last time I had one on the side of the road, I woke up bloody from the cement with cars running over my hair, only about an inch from popping my head like a blueberry. But I was in the car. The car would be wrapped around a tree. I would have a seatbelt on my chest, and my head would be in a giant pillow seizing. That's a lot better than the side of the road with a car running over your head. It's a lot better than having a seizure on the side of 108. So if I had to go to work and I have the choice between walking 3 miles in the cold and having seizures on the side of the road or driving a car, of course I want to drive a car. But I need doctor's paperwork before that can happen. Even though my father and mother tried to hide my illness and they tried to cover it up with a bunch of other Munchausen syndrome bullshit that my mother tried. Oh, I want to drug him with this pill, and I want to drug him with this pill, and I'll slip him one of these pills, and I'll slip him one of these pills. And oh, he did something. Here, drink this full bottle of Epicac. I mean, she was a monster. My mother, Patricia, was a monster. And every time I try to get help, oh, he has attachment disorder. He's just making up stories because he's mad at his biological mother. But that's not a thing for me because I think my biological mother made the right decision. She was 15 and she was statutory raped. Fine. So I got put in an orphanage and I needed a home and a family. All I ever wanted was a home and a family. And my biological mother, she's forgiven. She did nothing wrong. She did exactly what she was supposed to do at 15. I mean, is it her fault that some asshole with lots of money who owns a business took advantage of her when she was babysitting? Maybe a little bit her fault, but she was 13 when this guy started trying to date her. She was 15 when she had me. So, I don't think there's any blame there. But how about my adopted mother who poisoned me, slapped me around with rulers, destroyed and made it so every other kid in the orphan got to go to school but me? Every person that I met that went through these same St. Anne's orphanages or went through these same schools I went to at the end, when I tell them, well, what did you do from age 7 to age 12? They go, we went to school, we learned this, we learned that, we learned this, we learned that. They go, what did you do? Well, you were learning how to spell 6-letter words. I was up in the New Mexico mountains playing out in the woods as another 13-year-old boy tries to read me a book. Yeah, I didn't have a teacher showing me how to read. Instead, I had another boy in 1 hour a day who we would just try to read a book together with no classes to teach me how to read it. I would look at the bug book and go outside and try to look at the pictures to get the bugs. And then I would try to learn simple words like poisonous in New Mexico. And then I would learn those simple words and try to put them towards the book. But that was just me learning with other kids. There was no structured class like every other orphan got in every other state. If I was born in Texas or New Mexico, that wouldn't have been allowed to happen. If you're born, that's why they don't take kids unless they can actually put them through some type of program. They have a lot less orphans in those states. Also, if you adopt a child in Texas, you're expected to take care of him. You're expected to give him food, clothing, shelter, and health care. Now, food was covered some of the time. When my father made a bad decision, like putting me in New Mexico, and I would have to get food poisoning, or I would get choked out by a black man on the choking couch if I didn't want to get food poisoning, or if I didn't want to eat, if all the kids knew better to eat rotten, and there was only 3 young ones that we couldn't take the chokings. So we would eat the poisonous food and we would vomit and get sick. Well, all the other kids call us stupid. They like those eggs we knew were, don't you know, to refuse the rotten food when they bring it out? But they say they force us to. Yeah, well, go hungry then, is what the older kids would say. But see, the older kids didn't have to get choked out on the choking couch. That was me, the little girls, and the little boys. Any of the kids under 10, under 11, we were allowed to be choked out at the throat with our own arms until we couldn't breathe and until our arms were bruised up and hurt. This was only one staff member who did this way. His name was Toby. He was African American. Now, I tried to tell my father I didn't get an education, and he sued the place, and he knows this place was bad. But see, my father lives in Fantasyland where every one of he's perfect. He's the best. He never made a bad decision in his life. His drinking and driving, that's perfect. His drug abuse, where he mixes benzos with alcohol, that's not drug abuse because I got a prescription from a doctor. Oh, your doctor told you to mix alcohol with Ativan before bed? Oh, then my mistake. I didn't know your doctor told you to mix drugs together. If I knew that, then I guess you're not somebody who's an addict doing something. They're not. But if you're drinking alcohol with your meds close together at the same time, like if you're having alcohol from the time of 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., and if you're having benzos from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., those will mix. And I know my father, and I don't care. That's his business. But you don't get to be like, I'm better than you, and you took a pill, so you're some trash, and I'm some golden man over here that did everything. I'm a great man over here. He's literally a draft dodger. He did what everybody else did. That's what saved him. That's why he didn't have to have the PTSD that other people had. You had a choice. You could get married. You could join the Coast Guard. You could run the Canada. You could get super religious. All those things were ways to dodge the real draft and being an infantry soldier in Vietnam. Even in the Korean War, we always knew that going into the Coast Guard was an option to try to dodge the draft. In Vietnam, though, it backfired a little bit for the Coast Guard because at the end, they sent down the Coast Guard to pick people up and police a little bit. But that was after it was all over. All the big fighting was over. Then the Coast Guard got sent. So anybody who wanted to dodge the draft and the real action, they could join the Coast Guard, get married. They could become a Canadian. There was all these routes to do it. My father picked one of the routes so he wouldn't have to go to battle. He dodged his responsibility to the draft by using the Coast Guard, just like other people got married. Just like other people joined other types of branches, just like some people went to Canada. You could say, well, I just wanted to be a Canadian, and that's not dodging the draft. I have every right to be a Canadian. You could say, well, I was planning on getting married. What do you mean? I'm not allowed to get married before I die? Now, yes, you can get married and you can join the Coast Guard and you can move to Canada and you can shoot yourself in the foot. But all these things that you're doing is to avoid being an infantry soldier because of the draft. So you are dodging infantry soldier work from the draft by picking a way out of what every other draftee is about to experience. So my father picked right. And these rights only work for him. They don't help the country. It's not like my father really wanted to sacrifice his life to keep America great. No, he wanted to do as little as possible to stay alive. Can I just be a Coast Guard guy like the rest of them who do that? Or do I got to move to Canada? Or do I got to get married to get a little time off? Or what do I got to do around here not to be an infantryman? Was my dad's opinion. He didn't want to be an infantryman? Smart. Okay. How about his jobs? Did he work any harder than anybody I'm seeing today who might be homeless or on the streets? Did he work any harder from age 19 to 30 than I did? Oh, absolutely not. My father came from a generation where doctors weren't allowed to cripple you. They weren't going to put my father under massive amounts of drugs that make his life 10 times more difficult. I doubt anybody would have done that to my father. Well, how about as far as jobs being available? Do we have more or less jobs? No. Where I am, there is just as much or just as hard to get a job now as it was then, actually harder. Well, how about with me? Did my father have a hard time finding a first job? Of course not. He didn't have a record from some crazy mother. They didn't have computers. And when a crazy mother was going, my son needs pills, my son needs pills, he has this mental illness. Oh, he did this and he did that and he did this. And I got this fantasy about this. And I found a book of matches, so he's trying to burn houses down. And he bumped into furniture, so he's a self harmer. And he jumped in a pool, so he's a self harmer. And see the swimming medal? He has attachment disorder and he makes up stories and he needs medication and we need this pill and now he's on these pills but he's all dizzy and he's on these pills and now he's depressed and now he's on these pills and acting funny over there and now he is anxious after I whack him. I keep on beating him and smacking him around and pilling him up and bringing him all over the country and somehow that's not making him better. Yeah, smacking around this little orphan kid and pouring drugs down his throat and treating this kid like shit. Somehow that's not making his behavior better. Doctor, can we just drug him some more and smack him around some more? Maybe that will work. And that's my father's opinion today. Can't we just call this a mental illness, drug the shit out of him, and just imprison him or something, instead of just treating my fucking epilepsy? Yes, that's all that's wrong. I just was a child who experienced a crazy mother with Munchausen syndrome who wanted to slip her own pills and lie to doctors while destroying my nervous system. I had a night where something happened to me and I woke up permanently changed. The teachers saw this, everybody saw this. They were calling home, they were asking me about it. They were asking everybody about the sudden change, about this night where my mother was supposed to bring me into the emergency room, but she refused. There was a call. She tried to call and she didn't take their advice. The doctors, the teachers, people heard about this overdose. They heard my mother gave me medicine, and then I was suddenly different, and then I was sucking on my skin saying, I'm trying to see what it feels like. That's it. My mother's calling everything suicidal ideations. He's suicidal. He is attachment disorder. He's bipolar. He's ADHD. He's autistic. He makes up stories. He has every mental illness I can come up with, my mother says. So my mother is really trying to push. And this isn't my real mother. I was in a foster care, and this adopted mother, this foster mother, adopts me after knowing me for 1 year and then pushes all these illnesses. She hasn't even known me for like 2 years and she's already got me on like 5 pills. I just met this woman and she thinks that she can, oh, he has every illness in the book. And this is a big mistake in Westford. It destroys my body. So then my mother has to bury it. Oops, I made a fuck up. I destroyed this little orphan kid's body, and now he's talking and walking funny, and the teachers are calling home about it, and the kid is talking to the doctors about it. Oh shit, oh shit. I'll put him in ballet. No, they're still having problems. Oh shit. And then my dad gets a job offer he doesn't want to take. So my mother decides, we're going to Texas. We're going to Texas. Yes, we are. Yes, we're going to Texas. I don't care what Zach says. I don't care what Dad says. I'm going to convince us to go to Texas. That's it. My mother wanted to go to Texas. And I had no idea that meant my mother was allowed to kill me, cut off all my doctors, cut off teachers, and make it so I could never get medical care again. I had no idea what my mother was doing to me because I was a fucking 7-year-old. But what is everybody else's excuse? Oh, well, we had no control, the doctor will say. Once when your mother takes you out of state, we can't do anything. Okay. And how about the doctor records that you gave to my mother? She can leave out some records information and keep others, making it a big snowball fall downhill. Because now she knows I can't move my legs properly. She knows I'm speaking funny, and she knows my arms are moving funny for life now. All from an overdose. I saw this big change in me, and I've been trying to figure out what the fuck happened to me. Why does my skin feel different? I sucked and sucked on my left arm, and I tried, and I can't figure out why. When I suck on my left arm, it feels different at age 7 than what it felt like at age 6 all overnight. Right after an overdose, I just took medicine. I lost my vision. My breathing slowed down. I couldn't feel. I passed out on a pile of newspapers. There was an emergency. My mother's on the emergency phone. They're telling her to bring me to the emergency room. But my mother says, you don't know what you're talking about, and then hangs up on the people while letting me sleep off an overdose. I wake up permanently changed with problems with my body. Teachers are realizing it. Everybody's realizing it. I'm sucking on my skin. So what did the doctors do about it? Well, they heavily medicated me because my mother said I'm sucking on my skin because I'm self-harming at 7. My mother saying that when I played with matches at age 5, where all I did is I tried to see it glow, I tried to light it, that I'm trying to burn down a house. So my mother's coming up with all this psychotic bullshit to feed the doctors about me. And did I ever burn a house? No. I never burnt a house at age 5, 6, 7. But by the time I was 14, I had no scruples about fire. I already been blamed to be a fire setter on my 4th time. So when I'm finally 14, I don't give a fuck anymore. No, they're gonna call me a fire setter the first time I light a cigarette or if I go camping. I go camping and I try to, no, I'm a fire setter. Like it's goddamn crazy. So when I get older to teenage years, I'm confused and I do play with fire. I think the only ones I make a mistake with is a neighbor wanted to make a Molotov, just light it like a candle, and I said, okay, I'll do that with you, and we did it. I talked about it for like I don't know a month prior, because some other kid was asking me about it. Heath was curious. He asked me about it again. He said he wanted to make one. I want to make one. I want to make one. Can you show me how to make one? I said, sure. And then I tried to make one, even though I had no idea how these things worked. I thought if I lit the cloth, it would go down to me a firework, like boom. So, yep, that was stupid. That was me really playing with fire at 14, 15. And I tried to make a race car. I melted a race car and then put it down, rolling it, but instead it stuck to the table. The wheels melted to the table and it blackened it a little bit. I just had to blow it out. I had to blow out the corner. It got lit, and then I just kind of left it on the corner, kind of lit, and then blew it. Of course, it smelled. My father came in. Why does the corner of that bureau look a little dark? He made a big deal about it, but I'm like, at this point, maybe you shouldn't have been blaming a kid and drugging him and poisoning him and hospitalizing him for your fantasies at age 5, because I meant my nephew did the same thing. Javier, my nephew, at age 5, took a lighter that wasn't his without permission and tried to see it glow at school of all places. And then when I'm getting his homework out of his bag, I find it. And I have to talk to him about not playing with fire. And I ask him, why did you do this? He says, I don't know. Now, did I suggest that we should drug Javier, inject him with drugs, and put him in an institution for 30 days to make sure he doesn't burn down a school? Was I worried that my 5-year-old nephew was going to burn down a house in a school because he was playing with a lighter at 5 years old? No, I brought him to his mother to explain he could get in trouble. But what happened to me at 5 years old? I was put in a mental institution, drugged up. I was all fucked up. They did horrible things to me as my mother adds stories into my head, making me brainwashed. You could have burned down the house, so you are a house burner. You could have burned down the house. No, I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. I just wanted to see the glowing thingy. No, you took a book of matches and you wanted to light the house on fire. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Did you take the matches? Yes, I did. Did you try to light them? Yes, that could have burned down the house. So you were trying to burn down the house. But I didn't want the house burnt down. I just wanted to see the glowing thingy. And no, my mother just keeps on convincing me of these fucking fantasies that if a child just plays with a match, then he's purposely trying to burn down a house. That's not true. That's going to confuse your 5-year-old, 6-year-old son. You need to explain to your 5-year-old son that playing with matches is bad because you could start a fire that could get out of control. Then you take the matches away, you spank him, and you punish him. But instead, my mother fucked with my head trying to convince me that I was trying to burn down this house on purpose because I'm some evil person. I'm like, I'm confused. I'm confused. Oh, but I have to repeat everything. If I don't, I'm going to get the Epicac bottle again. I'm going to get a ruler to the face again. I'm going to get hurt again if I don't do what my mother says. And she says, I'm trying to burn down the house. She says, I got to tell my father I'm trying to burn down the house, so I have to do it. Now, I don't understand how I'm trying to burn down the house. All I knew is I took a pack of matches next to a candle. I went to the closet and tried to light one. Then it didn't work. So I tried to light a second one. That didn't work.